Ted,
Yes.
let's
You
go.
didn't sorry.
What's that?
I was gonna say you didn't do your homework.
No. I actually want to go back in time. I want to know what your upbringing was like.
I was born in Taiwan, and I was there until age of 12, and I get shipped to Canada alone.
Where in Canada? I didn't know that.
Toronto.
Nice.
It was super
Yeah,
cold.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so I was in a boarding school in Canada until I graduated high school.
Okay.
And after that, I have enough of winter, so I decided to come back to Asia. And that time, any English-speaking university that is qualified is either Singapore or Hong Kong.
Huh.
And my interest has always been in engineering technology, so Singapore was the right choice for me. And ever since then, Singapore has been good for me, good to
Yeah.
me. So yeah, that's that.
When did you first fall in love with technology and engineering?
I did a lot of stupid stuff in high school.
Talk to
and
us about that, Ted.
So when you are in boarding school with a bunch of kids, you tend to do a lot of interesting stuff. So let me think what I can share. My parents are entrepreneurs, so I always like business aspect of it. And when I was in boarding school at that time, we don't have 4G, 3G, etc. And at the dorm, at night, after you pass 12, they will cut off the internet. You can log in, but you cannot see anything, right? So that time, somehow me and my friends, we figure out we can get a router. In the dorm, those are mostly just Ethernet. We thought we can get a router. And we know that the teacher IP address can keep browsing at night. So we found a way to gain access to that. We put it on a router. And we start to charge people every month, money, so they can use that past 12 and
Just
so on.
entrepreneuring.
And then we figure out, technology. There's many ways to make money. Really, yeah. I wasn't thinking about all the impactful stuff back then, just how to make money.
Yeah.
And that's why I fall in love with technology, just trying to figure out what you can do with more and more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. So what was the event or the moment or the person or the experience that actually pulled you towards impact?
I've tried also businesses that has very little to do with technology, and it just doesn't feel right. So for example, we use technology like photo printing, all these, to make ID that are not true, like your age on there is not true per se.
Ah, Ted.
And then we found the quickest way to make money is if you buy, things that you're not supposed to buy, and
Then
you
sell them to your friends?
Yeah. But it just doesn't, once we get caught and stuff, it just doesn't feel right. It feels much more.
Yeah.
Much more you can do. And then when I go to university in Singapore, I really fall in love with power electronics, energy, and all that. And that time I was researching, if I study energy, what can I do when I grow up? And then it turns out that, energy is really a big problem in the world. And if you look at the energy consumptions worldwide, 50% goes to industrial sites, and then 20% goes to residential. So there's many ways you can make impact with energy, especially now with the new wave of renewable. It's also so that's why I decided to go to energy.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the segment of that challenge that you're going after solving, because industry, 50% of all energy consumption is there.
Yeah.
You're going into a specific niche.
Yeah.
Tell us why you picked it, what it is.
I try many. I want to go into consumer home first, but the economics just doesn't make sense. No one is, it's too little energy consumption. It's 20%. You try to sell to individual household, it's pain.
Were you building products?
Yeah.
Like what?
So we were building sensors to measure energy. That's the most basic in the beginning, and then when we trying to go to the home market, it doesn't make sense for a company to deal with all these logistics. And later on, we built sensors, and then we went to deploy in the manufacturing plant, and that become to be more fun because it's one customer, but everything they do there has massive impact, and these are the customer, to be frank, are polluting the world too. So if you can help them slowly convert that mindset, not only you help reduce energy consumption, but you can also shift them towards doing more to the good side. So that's when we stick to industrial side. And one of the challenges in industrial side is that there's a lot of domain knowledge that is hidden inside, and that's why in the industrial sectors they continue to not innovate because they don't have to.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we learn over the years is that we continue to work with universities, with these bigger players to figure out how we can extract some of these domains so that we can really open them, work with more people to solve on these problems. It's not that we don't have talent in the world to solve these problems, it's just that these talent doesn't have access to these informations.
Yeah.
So that's essentially what we're doing.
Yeah. And you're working with big firms when you say big firms. Can you give a couple examples of some of the larger clients?
So we work with, from a semiconductor place, we work with Global Foundries. They're one of the largest semiconductor players in the world. We're also part of GE Accelerator. So if you look at GE, there's a stat saying 1/3 of the energy generated in the world are using GE technology.
Wow.
Right. So, and then also recently we were working with the Tata Group, Tata Consulting Services. So these are the players that we work closely with.
So I had asked you this, I think, on day one, and I don't remember the answer, so I'll ask again. Why does GE need you? Right? They build more sensors than arguably anybody. They can crunch big data as well as anybody. They understand machine learning. How would they work with Evercomm?
I think one of the interesting things that we see is that these bigger player, they have all these legacy system infrastructure. So even if you look at GE, they're one of the example for the industrial IoT side. They have about 360 plus factories around the world, but they struggles to go to the bottom of the pyramid, which is the small and medium-sized factories, which is what we are now targeting to. GE, the biggest 360 factories. If you just go to 2 cities in, let's say, Thailand, that's already 4,000 factories that is untouched because no one is preparing technology that they can consume. And if you look at Thailand, just a small Thailand as a whole, they have 300,000 factories that are not digitized. So I think the way that GE is collaborating with us because they want to see is there a better way to reach to these customers to help them transform and et cetera, et cetera.
So you're bringing energy efficiency to the factories across the world, no matter, in essence, their size. Have you ever wanted to quit? I mean, did you ever want to give up? Was it ever so hard when you're knocking on these doors of these local factories that you just thought this is impossible?
When we get to the smaller factories, it was already much easier because we kind of know what we're doing. The incident that I remember the most that it made me almost wanted to quit is that the first time we got one of the Global Foundries, one of the biggest semicon, to open doors for us to try our technology. We were hooking up the power meters on their multi-million-dollar equipments to figure out the energy consumptions. Somehow, I don't know why that day, I forgot that you're not supposed to short grounds and power together. So that, so it just went boom, you know? And yeah, that was and then, by the way, when you do that to them, they don't care you are 20 years old, 22 years old. You will see adults, just grill you for a month and month and month. But that was really difficult for me. But luckily that time, we have very good mentors that was just saying, you screwed up already. So all you can do is just show up every day, get trashed, but trying to figure out what you can do to improve the situations the best that you can. And yeah, we did that for 4 months, and after that, I see I think they see how sincere we are to the problem, so they still continue to work with us after that.
Wow.
That was probably the most challenging things I faced.
Yeah. And how old were you when you started the business?
I started when I was 24, around there.
24.
Yeah. 24.
I know you said your parents are entrepreneurs. Did they support you on this, or did they think you're crazy, or what was that dynamic?
They never. The good thing about them is you can imagine they shipped me to Canada, so they pretty much let me decide what I wanted to do. The reason I go to Canada is because they just asked me, do you want to study abroad? That time as a kid, I'm sure you don't think much. You say, yeah, I got to go away, So I say yes, and they ship me. And 3 months later, when I start to realize this is not what I signed up for, when I start to call them and cry on the phone, I know it's tough on them, but they say, you made that decision, so you deal with the consequences. And that's how they always communicate with me, and that's how we work. Yeah.
So how many years into the journey are you with Evercomm?
6.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask the same question I asked Adi, which is paint the picture of the potential of the business and where you want to take it. What do you want this to look like when you really think about the long-term vision?
Yeah, for us is starting with Southeast Asia, which is most of these factories, small and medium-sized factories are. We want to probably reach around 40 to 50% of penetrations, because the moment you have that mass, you can actually systematically figure out how to move them to be more energy efficient, and after that, how to help them transition towards using renewable instead of fossil fuel. So figuring out how to cross that critical mass to get these SMEs under control is really key. I'll give you one interesting stats. In the very developed countries, in the industrial sectors, on average, there's still about 13% energy you can improve just by cutting down waste. And these are very developed countries on average. If you would right away move to a developing countries or emerging countries, that number can go up to 40% without even using the latest technology.
Yeah.
So that's really something that we want to bridge the gap.
Yeah. So half the factories in all of Southeast Asia.
Yeah, that's why we're working with the oil and gas player, with the telecom players, and we think it's possible because majority of these factories are already their clients, right? So that's why we are very much looking into partnership to help do this together with them.
If anybody can do it, Ted can do it. Let's give Ted a round of applause.
Thank you.